It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Hey, you're and I at the top of the hour. It's like, oh, there's a debate tonight.
Yeah, well, for all of those who won't be the nominee. They'll be talking as if they will be the nominee.
No, you and I said this. We had said this earlier with everything that's gone on, and you see the numbers right now. Unless there was a medical issue with Trump,
or he just says,
or he says,
know what?
I want out. Yeah, I don't see that happen. That's not going to happen.
I guess we could say the outside chance. I keep seeing these stories. An asteroid will come close to Earth. And by close to Earth, we mean 300 million light years. It's inevitable. And I was telling you during a break earlier, I keep seeing this, you look back historically at this early in the season, and polls were here and polls were there, and no, sorry. Now, the general election, that may apply to, but in terms of the primary, if nothing is shaking it up, because you and I look at movement, we don't put anything really into any one given poll. We don't put much into it. We can look at the spread in certain polls, and like in the GOP field, this person versus Biden, and we did that yesterday, and that's interesting because there is movement between each of the candidates. But when you look at it, we're in unprecedented territory, and there hasn't been any movement for Trump, except for, you could argue, maybe more of a lead for him, along the way. So I just don't see anything changing that. And I believe he'll be the nominee.
And I think what came out of the elections yesterday, where you had in Red Kentucky the incumbent governor Bashar Holdat, and you had in Virginia the fact that they didn't get the Senate and the Republicans lost the House, and then the abortion vote in Ohio. I think a couple of things. My gut tells me a couple of things come out of this, that if there was any passing thought in the Biden campaign that, okay, he needs to get out, that's gone for a while. Because
Joe Biden,
what did I say?
I don't know if you mentioned Joe Biden.
Oh, Joe Biden. Yeah. I don't see Joe Biden. I don't see them considering it now, just with the celebration. Now, do I think it was an over celebration? Yes, because to extrapolate what happened last night to next year is making the same error as anyone who would view the one poll from the New York Times a year out and come up with any type of definitive opinions. Right. And that's why you said, when you were looking at Trump, and the reason we just don't see anybody catching him is because this has remained consistent month after month after month after month, and you really see no weakening no matter what. And we gave an example because, of Trump. When Trump came out and said, and this goes back, was it a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, where when he criticized DeSantis and how radical the abortion ruling was, and the fact that he would make a deal that both sides would be completely happy with.
Right.
And let's be honest, you can be the most loyal Trump supporter. You know that's a delusional statement. Nobody's going to be happy with whatever an abortion ruling is. There's always going to be an opposition,
right?
To that. And so, but I do believe that after the Ohio vote, that if, Trump, I can see him when asked, because that question will come up consistently from especially the mainstream media, because their goal now is all these other states. We may not be able to get turnout for Biden, but we can get turnout on abortion.
Yeah, sure.
And so ask Trump, ask Trump, ask Trump, ask Trump, ask Trump. And I can see Trump saying, look, it's not a federal issue anymore. It goes back to the states. But if the Republicans wish and the Democrats wish to bring it up and negotiate it, I'll help them with the plan that most Americans probably would be on the side of.
Yeah, right.
And you and I have talked about what you saw last night has not changed anything in the way that I see the country viewing abortion. And it's the fact that the majority of people still, the Democrats will say the majority of Americans want abortion.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of Americans also want restrictions on abortion.
Yeah.
And what restrictions do they want? Well, they don't believe in partial birth abortion. They don't believe abortion, however you wish to define it. They don't believe in abortion up to birth. They don't.
Right.
Now, why is that? As we have stated, get out of the politics of it and talk about the morality of it and what people are thinking. Mm-hmm. And I think it gives you a better clue as to how Americans are thinking. And it's part of the discussion that I've had with at least 10 women that are pro-abortion since last year in the Dobbs decision. And every single one was the exact same conversation.
Right.
I was like, well, I've been here, done this before. Oh, I've been here, done this before. I've been here, done this before. And what would happen is I'd be out somewhere and somebody would say, yeah, that guy there, he's a talk show host. Oh, you are? So what do you think about abortion? What do you think about? I don't think anybody should mess with my body. Oh, so you're for abortion till birth. No. 15 weeks, 26 weeks, second trimester. Oh, then it's not about your body. Mm-hmm. What? Well, you just said it's about your body. But you believe that after 15 weeks, one of them said 15 weeks, that the government can stop you from getting an abortion. Well, yeah. Why? Well, because I consider it a human being then. Oh. So you're angry at people that believe that a child is a child at conception, that they become a human being at conception, but you've picked 15 weeks. Mm-hmm. So you both had the thought is the exact same for the majority of Americans. Pro-lifers are only different from you in their time span. What makes your time span more accurate than people that believe humans become human at conception?
Mm-hmm.
Could answer the question. And I said, and it's not about your body. You just admitted it to me. It's not about your body, because you just said that the government should be in control of your body after a certain period because you believe it's a child. That argument is the pro-life argument.
Yeah. Yep.
And I do believe that, and I will tell you that nobody was angry at me after I did that. They couldn't argue it. And I wasn't saying it in a way saying, you're a killer. I was just explaining, or you're murdering babies.
Mm-hmm.
I was just explaining that, well, the contradictions that they were making and the fact that it's a time span difference between most people. Now, if it's abortion up to birth or partial birth abortion, that's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
But for anybody else, and so I don't see that. That's not changing. And over the last 20 years, it has moved more towards people against abortion till birth.
Yep.
And that's what you work with if you're trying to move forward on any particular issue. And that's why you have Republican governors, stating, well, 6-week or heartbeat bill or, 16-week bill. I think that's one. It was Youngkin who proposed that.
Mm-hmm.
And because they know that's where the majority of people actually stand.
Right,
and nobody will talk about it. In the whole process of it, nobody will say, well, what makes a difference between 15 and 16 weeks? They can't tell you scientifically what the scientifically, they can't argue it scientifically at all. It's just their feeling that at this particular point, and so Americans are still struggling with it. It's not that Americans
It's why
are like
it's not going to get done on Capitol Hill.
right. That's why it's never exactly. Oh, but speaking of Youngkin, any chance of him running now is gone. Now, I don't know if he was going to run, but any talk of him running is done now. For in 24. I don't think it would have mattered anyway. I don't know what scenario he would have gotten in on. But so I believe that there's a greater chance now that Biden will not, say, okay, I'm not going to run, because I think you're going to see them taking this as a huge victory. And I think that's it would be wrong for Republicans to take the New York Times poll and celebrate it. It would be wrong for the Democrats to take what happened yesterday and celebrate it as that's the indication of their victory for 2024.
Well, because we've seen this time and time again where they'll take one election and say, see, this proves. Well, it doesn't.
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. But I agree. I think they'll try and leverage that because I think it supports Joe Biden's ego, which is not going to let him drop out. And he'll take it and say, look, we've seen it time and time again. We saw it with all these elections and blah, 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 blah. The economy is great. And they'll continue that. And those that are suggesting he should drop out, the David Axelrods of the world, they're going to fade off into the background. Things aren't going to get better. The economy isn't great. His agenda is crushing American families, but they'll take this energy from this election cycle and say, see, we're good to go, and this shows that we're going to win.
I think there are things that Republicans can learn from yesterday, and that's the fact that you better be damn unified over a particular easily understood message that's slam dunk for 2024.
Well, and that's the concern with me, because even before the results from yesterday, again, they've spent a total of 4 weeks this year trying to find a speaker.
Right.
In January and again recently. And that's a problem. And if you can't get it together there, then the question you and I have been questioning the party for a long, long time as to why they can't get their messaging together. But it has to be consistent. And I would love to be pleasantly surprised. I would love to see whether it's Mike Johnson, whether it's the party, whether it's, I don't know. Maybe it's the state parties that bring it together. I don't know. But I would love to see that happen. I just don't have the confidence that it will. And you and I, gosh, I don't remember where it goes back to, but 2012 maybe? But talking about all of the things where it's just handed to you. All you got to do is point. You got to do is point it out. Right now, the message couldn't be any clearer.
And let's put it this way. I'll take the extremes. If you are running a bunch of politicians that are like Mike Johnson instead of George Santos, you will win a lot more, even if both agree on the same conservative principles.
Right. Yeah. Agreed.
Or I'll say Mike Johnson and a Boebert.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll use that.
Right.
The Mike Johnsons will win more.
Yes.
I'll say this, so it's not viewed as sexist in any way if you run Elise Stefanik instead of instead of a Boebert.
Right.
You will have better success, which means run people that seem normal.
that can stay on the ideas and don't make it
Stay
about
on the
themselves.
ideas, yes.
I'm tired of the people that are trying to make it about themselves. You're not. You work for your constituents. You work for the American people. But I see more and more indications, clear indications, that they think they're trying to get their social media status up.
Yeah.
Focus on the ideas and campaign that way. And go to work. Be an adult.
Because this is the best opportunity in the history of me covering elections or me following elections in my life. So you're talking over a half a century where the issues favor one political party so greatly, but the personalities don't.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre for me because this should be a slam dunk election.
A lot of YouTube shorts coming up with Ronald Reagan from back in the day. Man, what a different time. What a different time it was. I just watch them and I think to myself, that's like watching people from another planet. You know?
It was a different time.
It was a different time. It feels like we're on a totally different planet now.
Mm-hmm. And when you say Reagan, I think of 84. I think of Reagan, Mary Lou Retton. I mean, that's just,
right.
it's just I remember.
Yeah.
I remember exactly where I was during that election. I remember exactly where I was.
Right.
And then remember the Olympics of 84 in L.A. were going on. So
right. And Reagan could say things and you would understand it and go, oh, yeah,
Yep.
no, he's right.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howes Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Quiet weather across most of the nation to start the week. Yet USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says later in the week, a Pacific storm system
we'll have a cold front that starts to tap into a little bit of Gulf and Atlantic moisture. And as that happens during the second half of the week, we will see, at least temporarily, an increase in rainfall across the south, generally from the western Gulf Coast region into the southeast.
that should result in beneficial moisture for winter wheat and cover crop establishment in the region, as well as aid in controlling wildfire threats.
It has been incredibly dry. We've got an increasing footprint of extreme to exceptional drought, D3 to D4 on the drought monitor across that region, and rain is really desperately needed in places like the Mississippi Delta and the Tennessee Valley.
2 to perhaps 6-inch rain totals are expected along and near the Texas coast, while other areas in the southeast could receive at the most an inch of rain later this week. I'm Ron Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We don't have time, but what you just told me now, you have to bring up following the bottom of the hour.
All right.
Because I think it's a interesting. I really think it's an interesting, a very interesting and prolific opinion.
Yeah,
it really is, and you've related, and it's on just protesting of today and certain issues out there, where it's just in liberalism. Protesting has become such a automatic virtue signaling thing.
Yep.
That they really don't know about the particular issue. It may not even affect them.
It doesn't affect them at all.
The virtue signaling.
I got to go. Time to protest.
Yeah.
What are you carrying today? I'm old enough to remember when they were carrying signs in the whole liberal transgender movement thing, and that was the day's protest. Nope, that one's gone. Replaced by something else. We'll talk more in a minute.
When I got out of the Marine Corps, I was not just, working with my physical disabilities, I was emotionally broken. I remember thinking, how did I get here? how it was affecting me in my marriage. My husband, he didn't know how to help me. He actually called Wounded Warrior Project. Wounded Warrior Project had this thing called Couples Odyssey.
It was an eye-opener, and I think it really saved our marriage.
They gave us books and resources and tools on how to help us with that. I just love him. I love you, honey.
Me too.
Watching her fight for her mental health, fighting for other veterans, fighting for this family, helped me to fight too. Well, I always loved her, but I love her 10 times more for that.
Not all wounds are visible. If you or a loved one are suffering, visit woundedwarriorproject.org/notalone.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-785-9132. That's 800-785-9132. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-785-9132.
The IRS, the world's most aggressive collection agency. They can seize your property, bank account, and garnish your wages. They cause sleepless nights for millions of Americans. Don't be one of them. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, get protected today. Call 800-312-9970. Coast One Tax Group, protecting your bank, home, and your sleep since 2008. With hundreds of 5-star reviews and an A+ on the Better Business Bureau. Call Coast One Tax Group, 800-312-9970. Stanley from New York owed $93,000. The IRS placed a levy on his bank account. Coast One released the levy and settled with the IRS for $2,000. Mark in Michigan owed $225,000. After Coast One stepped in, Mark walked away paying less than $1,500. Call Coast One now. A 10-minute call can save you up to 93% on your back taxes. Get your fresh start today. That's 800-312-9970.
Shop at Iowa80.com for the best selection of everything for your truck. Bumpers, fenders, toolboxes, lights, interior, and more. Iowa80.com, your trucking accessories superstore.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning, and thanks for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and if you can't listen live overnight, you can listen when and where you choose. Interesting, we're just having a discussion during a commercial break in the last half hour, and I thought it was really interesting when you were talking about, just the pro-abortion movement in this country already, where, and we have talked about this before, but I just like the way that you phrased the conversation, and when we've talked about it before, we've said, abortion actually doesn't affect as many people as it used to at all when Roe v. Wade came out, because of birth control, in this country, and change in attitudes of young people.
Yeah,
it is, and when you have whether it's a morning after pill or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not at all the kind of an issue of urgency that it used to be, yet it's still there as an issue.
Yeah, because it is, again, it has been from the very beginning. When you go back to Roe v. Wade, it has become, it was this protest that for the left was part of the foundation of the left.
Mm-hmm.
For all of that time. And they still want it to be. The Democratic Party still wants it to be that. So many times they want to bring about a new civil rights movement. And so that's the language you'll hear. But for the people that are participating in the protests, it really isn't that it affects them directly. It is just that, well, it's a protest, and it's a reason to get out and protest the right.
It's a reason to virtue signal.
It's a reason, yes, to virtue signal as well. But you look at the stats on the number of abortions, and it's hard to follow, exactly. But there are two sets of numbers that Pew Research looked at: the Guttmacher Institute and also the CDC. And both of those organizations looked at, followed the number of abortions since 73 and how they've changed. And basically, it peaked in 1990 rather, for both of them. The CDC has a lower number than the Guttmacher Institute, but while it did come up between 2015 and 2020, it is still down dramatically versus 1990. The point is that that abortion isn't, and I think we've touched on this before, but when you relate it to the mindset of those who go to protests, we're seeing that play out right now with this morbid support of Hamas and this anti-Semitism. This is part of that same mindset of activism. They don't know the facts, and the facts don't affect them directly. Not everybody in that group that's protesting against Israel is a Palestinian.
No, most aren't.
It's liberals that are out there, and they have to be, again, I've been saying it since day one on this issue, we're truly defining who the radicals are, and we're separating the radicals from everybody else, and this is one of those moments. But it is that same type of mindset of, I've got to get out there and show that I'm going to do this. And it is that virtue signaling. I've got to be part of the protest. It is the protest of the day. And we saw it, and you and I talked about this going into the primary season for the Democrats in 2020. Who's going to be on stage in terms of their kind of virtue signaling? You're going to have to demonstrate that you hate Trump more than the other candidates hate Trump. And it really is that virtue signaling that drives them in order to prove to the world that they care more or they hate this thing more than anybody else.
Or they're, because, and I want to combine this with something that Turley talks about all the time, the age of rage. You combine the age of rage with the age of virtue signaling, but virtue signaling is, I'm angrier than you,
right?
Which means I care more about you. I don't know anything about what the hell I'm talking about,
right?
And a couple of things. First, there was the story yesterday. I believe it was New York City in this coffee shop, and this owner, just like 27, 28, 29 years old, a young guy, ran a coffee shop. Well, he put up an Israeli flag. His staff was all young.
Yeah.
They all quit.
Right.
They left.
Yeah.
They were outraged at him for putting up an Israeli flag.
Yeah.
They're all for, they're all for, they're basically pro-Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way you could look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was he had another function he had to go to. He had to cater a function, and he realized, somebody else is leaving. And he called his mom and said, you need to go in and shut down the coffee shop. She says, I'm not shutting it down for this.
Right.
I'll go in and learn how to. And his mother went in, got friends of his. They went in and started, making the coffee and doing whatever. And the word got around. Next thing you know, there's a line of 100 people waiting to get into the coffee shop. Nobody's angry.
Right.
Because they're not there just to get the coffee. They're there for the support. But he goes, they didn't even know what the hell they were talking about. They didn't even know what happened. They had no idea what was going on, yet they felt so passionate about something that they were clueless on that they had to quit. And they were furious and they were angry, but they were clueless and angry, but still had to protest.
Yeah.
And they didn't even know what was going on. They didn't know the facts about it. And it brought me back to the movie from, I think it was 94 or 95, if anybody's ever seen it, with Jeremy Piven, PCU.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about this, kid that goes to a college. I think it was in Connecticut or Rhode Island or something. And he went in pre-Frosh. He went in to basically find out what the college was about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the person who's supposed to show him around is Jeremy Piven, who basically runs some kind of co-ed frat sorority house where they all hang out and all they want to do is party. And he's the one that's got to show him around. And it was like, and so we did. And they go through, and it's like they go through the student union, whatever, outdoors, and there's like every type of protest known to mankind.
Yeah, right.
I'll never forget, they're screaming, save the whales, do this, free Nelson Mandela. And I'll never forget, Piven's character turns around and goes, they freed him already. Or one of the people said, they freed him already. Right. And it was hilarious. And he said, these are cause heads. They believe that their life's goal is to protest, and so they protest all the time. And then when one thing has burned out, they jump onto the next protest.
Right.
It's basically a lifestyle for them. And when you said that to me, that's what I started thinking of. I started thinking of the coffee shop. I started thinking of the insanity of these students that really don't even seem to know what's going on. They don't know any of the facts at all. They don't care to know the facts.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's the same thing with the radical transgender movement.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, these students that are furious that you will not accept somebody, that you will not suspend reality of biology, and they have nothing behind them. There is no critical thinking. There's no connecting the dots to anything that is logical, yet they're absolutely furious to the point of wanting to beat you up, to intimidate you, to destroy your life, as Riley Gaines, found out. And none of it makes any kind of damn sense because none of it is based in reality at all.
Remember what they were saying? Riley Gaines showed up to talk at a university here in North Texas, and they were looking at the people going in that support Riley Gaines, and they were saying to them, I know where you live. Think about this mentality, this dangerous and violent mentality from the left that is going on. And it is that urge to show, well, see, I care more. I'm willing to commit violence. I'm going to do this. And by the way, it's also anger. That it really is an anger that, and I don't know if it's because in the back of their mind they're being proven wrong with the facts, and that's frustrating after committing to a cause.
Is it a kind of radical fundamentalist belief that is based on the faith of the group and whoever the leader is promoting the BS, and you just accept it and you move on? Is it the lack of, I have to ask this question. I'm only asking the question. I'm not making a statement by asking the question, even if you do wish to read into it. But is it a substitute for religion or faith? I won't say religion. Is it a substitute for faith? I got to ask that question.
I think it can serve as that, and I think it also is an excuse not to engage in critical thinking. Critical thinking requires you to realize if you start and practicing critical thinking, the first critique comes of yourself. There are corrections you have to make of you.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things that you go through it. And as talk show hosts, we kind of understand that all too well because you're putting it out there for everybody to hear. And you have to know exactly where you stand. And if you don't engage in that, you can just keep chanting what the others are chanting. And you bring that up, it is that group think. And without social media, where would it be? Well, what would the level be in the room without social media and active media? There would still be plenty of protests. I mean, there were back in the 60s. We saw, but that was a real. I mean, you look at it; those were the civil rights days, and the Vietnam War and everything else. And you could look at those protests and say, okay, we know why they're here. On today's issues, it's like they're going out with a blank sign looking for a cause.
Well, and you said that when you said this hit me when you said the fact that, they don't wish to engage in critical thinking. That may be the behavior, but is that the goal, or is the goal to get easy satisfaction, instant gratification?
No, that's it. That is definitely the goal. I think so.
The instant gratification that I'm protesting something and I can find people that agree with me.
Yes.
We've never discussed it. We've never actually gone through the critical thinking process and asking each other, as you and I do all the time, did I miss anything here? How many times have I said that? I'm not sure about this topic, but did I miss something here?
Right.
Because this is how I'm thinking. Did I miss something here?
Right.
I'm always questioning whether I missed something. Maybe not as much on the air, but I do it on the air especially when a new topic comes up and I go, am I missing something here? But I do it all the time in preparing for the show. What am I missing? What am I missing? What am I missing? Mm-hmm. Well, that's when you do that, and when critical thinkers do that, you're doing the hard work of coming to a opinion that people may disagree with you, but most people will know how you got there, and they can follow the logic to it.
Right.
You can't follow any logic here. There's no work being done to actually form a coherent argument or connect dots. It's simply rage.
It's an emotional wave.
It's like an emotional wave based on rage, and then a good feeling that we're all together and we got angry, and therefore I'm doing something positive. I can't define what I'm doing positive.
Well, if you're at a concert and the band comes on stage and they open and everybody's screaming, stands up and everybody's screaming. But if you're alone in your room and watching that band on YouTube, are you standing up and screaming? No.
Have I had a beer?
Depends on how many beers I've had. Sometimes the YouTube isn't even on. I'm just screaming for no reason. But no, I mean, it is that energy wave that carries them, and I think they get something from that kind of weird gratification, that satisfaction of being part of that energy, even though it's extremely negative.
Which makes me ask the question, is that why most conservatives don't normally, the first thing that comes to their mind is not protesting?
Yes. I think that's a big part of it.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
Check out all the latest in news, events, trucking information, and podcasts at Red Eye Radio's website at RedEyeRadioshow.com. That's RedEyeRadioshow.com.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just fascinating, though. I mean, I'm so glad I'm so glad you brought that up in one of our commercial breaks when you just started analyzing protests of today and what the left is actually protesting and whether it affects them or not, and just in general how knowledgeable they are on things. And it just is really amazing. I'm amazed how the protests of today are much like the movie PCU from 1994.
Right, yeah. They're just running out with a blank sign. Hey, what are we protesting? Okay, now I'll write that on the sign. It's crazy.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.